What is up, guys? It's Austin with Kanos Renovations, bringing you our first how-to video on how to hang an interior door. I know it's the content you've all been craving, so let's go ahead and get into it. So how I like to start my install is I take a 2-foot level in the opening of the door on the floor, and I check the level of the floor. That allows me to know if my hinge side or my strike side of the door is going to be higher. Ideally, you want the hinge side higher because you're able to manipulate the strike side a little bit easier. Your strike side is where the latch and latch plate meet. And then basically after I find out the levelness of my floor, I like to move to the hinge side of the door opening. I do 3 shim locations, and basically what that's doing is it's plumbing and leveling the hinge side of the door, so that when I'm done doing that and I go to set my door in place, I know that when I'm tacking the door, I'm tacking it to a nice plumb and level opening. So here I'm sliding the door in place. I like to use a air shim or a pump to pump the door up into place, as you can see there. And then once it's up in place and I like where it's sitting flush with the wall, I'll go ahead and tack it in place. And I will repeat that process with the middle hinge location here, and then as well as the bottom shim location. This location was giving me a little bit of issues. I don't know if the jamb was just slightly warped or what it was, but I have to do a little bit of messing around with the bottom one here. I do go back to it later on in the video and kind of monkey with it a little more. But basically, that there was a little bit of binding at the bottom of the door and the jamb, so putting more shims in that bottom hinge location will push away that jamb from the door, creating a nice sight line or a nice reveal. And basically what you're doing as you're tacking this door in place is you are checking that reveal or your sight line, which would be the gap between the door and the jamb, to make sure it's consistent top to bottom. Once that's completed, I move to the latch side of the door, and I will repeat the same process that I used over on the hinge side of the door. I will put my shims in where needed, and I will continuously adjust my sight line, which again is the gap between the door and the jamb, making sure that's consistent all the way down from top to bottom. This is where I kind of had to go fix that bottom right corner again, but then it was good to go after that. And then as you can see, I'm taking more shims here, shimming off that latch side of the door. What I like to do is a shim location above and below the latch plate. It makes the door more solid, in my opinion, when it closes. So in total, I do a shim location at the very bottom of the door, 2 in the middle, and then 2 up top, as you'll see when I get to it here. I've always been taught to do at least 4 to 5 shim locations on the latch side of the door, and that's what you will see here. Again, 1 at the bottom, 2 in the middle, and then 2 at the top. And again, it's important to note here, as you can see, as I'm inserting shims in the locations that I have explained, I'm always continuously, I can't stress it enough, checking that reveal and making sure that reveal is consistent top to bottom. It just, once you have a finished product, it allows the homeowner or the client or whatever, when they're looking at the door, it's going to look nice and clean. The lines are going to be nice and clean all the way around, and nothing's going to kind of jump out to them. And so then finally here, what I'll do is put a shim in the top of the door, again just preventing flex in the jamb, making the whole frame a little more solid. You can start top or latch side when you're doing your shims after the hinge side, doesn't really matter. And then moving on, What I like to do is I like to take off the hinge on the hinge side of the door, and I like to drill a pilot hole and then insert a 3-inch construction screw into the framing of the opening, into the wood framing. In my opinion, it just makes the whole install more solid. It makes the door more solid, and for longevity purposes, just kind of allows the door to hold up longer over time. I do just the top and the bottom hinge. I don't see a reason that you need to do the middle hinge. I feel like the top and the bottom hinge provide it with all the sturdiness and solidness, I guess if that's a word, that you need. And then once I finish up here, putting the 3-inch screw behind the latch plate to conceal it, or excuse me, the hinge plate to conceal it, I will go around and remove all the shims. So as you can see here, I'm just scoring the shims with a utility knife and then snapping them. But then in the other locations where I had a few other shims stacked on top of each other, I just go ahead and use my oscillating tool or my multi-tool to go ahead and remove all the shims around the door opening. That'll allow you to put your casing on once you are done with the door install. One of my shims, or a couple of my shims, fell out here as I was cutting them out, so I believe I had to go and grab a couple more shims and insert those kind of in the middle of the door, retack those into place, and then once I did that, I will go around and kind of show you guys the reveal as best I can at the end of the video, making sure that those lines are consistent all the way around again. And then once that's done, you are pretty much completed with your interior door install. Clean lines. Thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Please share the video with your friends, and we'll see you on the next one.